Welcome to all our panelists. We truly are honored to have you concluding our day one. So if you can each perhaps introduce yourselves, and as you introduce yourselves, please do offer us insights on skills development in the energy sector. So Tanya van Sail, we'll start with you as and when you're ready.
Thanks, Tabang. Let me show my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Fantastic. Okay, thanks for the opportunity, Tabang. I'm Tanya van Sail. I am with the National Cleaner Production Centre of South Africa. Where I'm the quality manager, and one of the areas of my responsibilities is the training content and quality management of that training content within the National Cleaner Production Centre. So the National Cleaner Production Centre, we help industry, South African industry, to improve their competitiveness and reduce their environmental footprint through the implementation of what we call RSCP methodologies, that is resource efficient and cleaner production methodologies. We're a program of the DTIC and hosted by CSIR. We have three thematic areas that we focus on, which includes water, materials and waste, and of course energy, and this is what we are talking about today. In that energy field, we have a specific project that we call the Industrial Energy Efficiency Project. It's been running for a very long time. What you see on your screen now is the achievements of that project in the past 10 years. You'll see on the left-hand side, it's energy saved, and that is actual saved implemented energy, and tons of carbon dioxide equivalent mitigated, as well as cost savings. And what we're more interested in today is on the right-hand side, trainees, people that we've trained. So in the past 10 years, we've trained more than 6,000 professionals in shorter and longer courses in the energy field. And we've trained 200 experts. Now, the expert course is a course that runs over about 9 to 12 months. And so those are our flagship training courses. And in energy specifically, we have about 12 disciplines. Now, not to take up too much time, this is typically the disciplines that we have in energy that you can see there. Firstly, we have on the left-hand side at the top energy management courses. So the Energy Management 101, that is the fundamentals course. That's something that everybody has to do. Then we have a systems implementation course that is based on ISO 50001 energy management system. The implementation of that, not the auditing and so on, but the actual implementation of that at a facility. We also do a course in energy performance measurement indicators. So this is now, if you've implemented opportunities, how to measure and verify those savings. On the right-hand side, we have what we call energy systems optimization trainings as well. And this is where we focus on the whole system, the whole compressed air system, the whole fan system, pump system, steam system. And also a new addition is now the power quality principles. And with the advent of a lot of solar PV in the country being installed, we are seeing that that has a detrimental effect on the power quality supplied to industry. So this is a very very good course, especially now where we see a lot of alternative and renewable energies coming on board. We also ventured into biogas, where we've developed an end user and an expert course. So that's in renewable and alternative energies that we've developed there. So on our courses are mainly aimed at the manufacturing industry. However, we've seen a huge uptake in commercial sector, mining sector. So it's also still valid for everyone out there. We have end user courses. These are 2-day full-time face-to-face courses, which most of them we have been able to migrate online, and which means we spread them over 4 days in the mornings. So it's half days, 4 half days. And then we also have expert courses that that's usually between 9 and 12 months to complete an expert course, and you have at least 5 full days of in-class tutoring in those cases. Okay. We also develop trainers in all of these courses, and these trainers can be used by other institutions that also offer our courses. All of our courses carry CPD points, and we've developed some new courses in the past year. So yeah, that's the NCPC. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Tanya van Zyl. We appreciate the end once everybody has rendered their input. Thank you for that. May I then ask Dr. Marina?
Yes, thank you.
Dr. Marina?
Can you hear me?
Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Thank you very much.
Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, I can, ma'am.
Okay. I also prepared. I
can hear you.
Okay.
Yes,
great.
I can.
Great. Thank you. I have prepared a couple of slides, but I'm just going to talk around them. We don't need to share. However, you can share afterwards. You can share the slides with the audience. I am, as you've heard, Marina Muir. I am a Director of Environmental and Sustainability Solutions, and we are a small consulting business operating in the environmental and sustainability discipline. We offer a lot of training, and this is what we are talking about today. So we are specifically looking now at the energy sector, and I'm so glad Tanya started because she set the scene for us with all the excellent courses that the NCPC is offering within the energy sector. And I must admit upfront, I'm not an energy expert. So I look at it from a broader perspective. I look at it more holistically to see where the professionals in the energy sector fits in, and how can we broaden that basis of their capabilities, their skills, their knowledge. And especially now, when we look at the post-COVID situation, where so many organizations are caught in this economic downturn, we need to have more skills available to assist companies to move forward, to be more successful. So looking at the training or the skills development, it's for me the basic start, of course, was the primary training and education, which Tanya pointed to, and that would have been your energy management courses, energy efficiency, and your renewable energy courses. And we speak about both your formal tertiary education, where we also talk to your qualifications that you obtain, but we also talk to the short courses that enhance skills that's already present with a lot of professionals. So the primary, moving from the primary training, what I would like to focus on is the additional training that professionals in the energy sector must look at. And there are quite a lot of areas or categories. First of all, because we are operating and we want to move forward within the green economy, we have to understand what that is. And I'm not, please don't worry, I'm not going to lecture now. I'm just mentioning that. So, and then of course, also one of the baseline topics, and which we have to understand, and we sometimes just assume people understand what it is the circular economy. Which forms the basis also of moving forward within the energy sector. Then I want to link your energy specialist training and education to, and I first want to just mention the water management. And we cannot, we don't live in isolation anymore. When you do energy management, you also have to understand water management. And I don't in any way suggest that everybody must become experts in all the different disciplines or categories, but you have to have a very good understanding of where water management fits into your discipline within the energy sector. And if we just think quickly about the water is, we need water to produce energy. So we cannot divorce the two. The other one is waste management. And there we also link it to your alternative energy sources. If we can manage, and there's a move towards it, but if we can manage to turn waste into energy, just think about the outcomes. More energy for a start, less waste for a start. And that in the end, it's a win-win situation. Linked to the waste management is your knowledge and skills with regard to recycling. And that again comes back to waste to energy. Climate change, the topic of the decade now. We have to bring back all our knowledge and skills and our activities. We have to bring back to our impact as individuals, but also as companies towards climate change. Then, well, the carbon management, I think, is a huge drive now, where the basis of your carbon management will be your data with regard to energy. So the two is definitely linked, and we have to be able to talk about carbon management in a sense, or in a way that we produce that knowledge and skills towards others, or project that. Then the basis of the training in the energy or skills development in the energy sector, of course, would be your legislation. I know legislation is very boring, but sometimes as energy specialists, we have to understand our basic environmental and energy legislation and all these nice white, what do they call it? Documents. And also, yeah, thanks, Mpo. So that we have to understand the basis, we have to comply as a minimum. And then business strategies is my last one that I want to mention, is that everything must come together for an organization within the business strategy. If you do not put energy management or resource management within your broader business sustainability or business strategy, it's going to fade away. By the way, I said that's the last one, but I forgot about one that I thought that Tanya will mention, but I'm going to do it now, is resource efficient and cleaner production. It's also a program offered by the NCPC, and that this particular course brings together all the different resources: your energy, your water, your waste, your management of materials. So that for me is just in a nutshell what I want to, for a start, convey. And I think, Tabang, we are going to talk about the how we include, or how can we stimulate the training and skills development within the women, maybe women and youth sectors. So I'll leave it there. We can discuss that after all the introductions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Moore. We're just having some technical challenges with Zoom. However, I hope you can still hear me. And I trust that everybody heard you because you were loud and clear. Okay, can we then have Mpho Mokapela, who's the acting CEO of EWCTA?
Thank you, Tabang. I hope I am audible to everyone. And thank you for inviting me to the session. My name is Mpho Mokapela. I'm the acting CEO at Energy and Water SETA, and we are the Education and Training Authority, responsible for the two sectors, which is the energy, critical, and water, both critical resources that we thirsty for in our country. Just what EWCTA does in a nutshell, I'm going to try to keep to the 3 minutes. I also don't have a presentation. But what we do is that I always try to sum it up and say we are responsible for ensuring that in South Africa, we have a well-capacitated workforce, a capable workforce that will drive economic growth in the energy and the water sector. How we do this is high level, our main responsibility through the Skills Development Act is to ensure that we determine the skills demand for the two sectors. Skills demand for current and skills demand for the future. And once we've determined that, and that's through partnerships with the industry, which is the employer, ensure that we allocate the resources that we receive as an organization to ensure that we are closing such demand through supply of relevant skills and at the right time. I'm just going to highlight on two key areas. We, in the last couple of years before I joined the SETA space, which I joined about 3 years ago, we had a national skills development strategy that we were implementing. And the main focus of the skills development strategy was really to give access to those people who didn't have access to opportunities. When we look at our history as South Africa, we had a majority that didn't have opportunities to get employment because they were not skilled. And NSDS was addressing such issues. We've now moved into the NSDP, which was launched, which started this year, to NSDP 2030, which mainly is to ensure that we do have a capable workforce and aligned to the NDP, and to ensure that we've got every single individual in our country within the energy and the water sector have opportunities to contribute to economic growth, which talks to inclusive economic development. What we do as an organization, I know a lot of people think we do projects, skills development projects. And when I'm listening to the first two presenters with regards to the different projects and the different courses that they are offering from elementary to expert level, that is part of what we're supposed to be supporting as an organization. We don't deliver projects, but we ensure that the South Africa has the right skills, has the right providers, and we are producing such skills to serve the energy and the water sector. Drought and our recent talk of transition from fossil fuel to renewable energy calls for skilled nation. We cannot talk to access to clean water and access to affordable energy if we haven't capacitated our people to ensure that they are delivering solutions in line in those areas. So what we do, which is a challenge right now in South Africa, I sat in a session last week when we were looking at just energy transition, which talks to not leaving anyone behind. Our greatest challenge right now is that we might be shifting towards from a fossil fuel to renewable energy, leaving the TVET colleges behind, leaving our current education system behind, and just capacitating people who are just currently employed in the coal mine. From a training authority perspective, skills development is critical, is important, and for as long as maybe we are not aligned or we're not collaborating and we remain fragmented, we will never get to a point where we can clarify what our skills development system or structure looks like for South Africa. The unfortunate part of the constantly and rapidly changing environment when it comes to technology is resulting in a lot of people who are going to be left behind. The reason I say that is if our TVET colleges remain, if our public institutions remain and aren't adapting, which take time for them to adapt, we're still going to have the young people who are connecting, who are being trained in those institutions, being churned out into the space and being declared irrelevant as they will not be responding to industry. So our call when it comes to the energy sector, if we are to see the energy sector a transition and not leave other people behind, we need to start back even in school and start and looking at our VET colleges and looking at our community colleges, because those are the people we need to be responding to. If we look at SDG 4 that talks to quality education and SDG 8 that talks to access to decent work, our people will not have access to decent work if they're not trained. And it's good to see partners who are in this room who have courses that are relevant, that are responding to our needs currently, and that are responding to our future needs also. And I think my plea for me is for us to move all together and not to leave others behind with regards to skills development. That's where I've tried to keep to 3 minutes, which I didn't, but that's my introduction.
Thank you very much, Bodo. That's all right. It's always good if it's over time, but relevant content. So you've given us relevant content right there. So thank you very much. Can we have Beth Hoffenbaker, founder and CEO of Waterford? Beth, welcome and thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much. Good day, everyone. I'm pleased to be here. I'm Beth Hoffenbaker with Waterford Inc. and also with Leaders in Energy. I'll share with you a little bit of my story and the work that we do at Waterford in conjunction with Leaders in Energy. The focus of this conference is really at the heart of what I focus on professionally and personally, and again, for Leaders in Energy, which is an international nonprofit organization that's trying to help bring about this great big green shift that we all know that we need in support of our planet and the well-being of all people and beings here. I'm a career coach specializing in the sustainability space. I also teach a variety of workshops and provide professional development for people who are part of our larger green community. I work with individuals who are just getting out of school or people who have been in another profession and looking to transition to roles in our green industry. And I like to say I'm on my third career, and if I can do it, anyone can do it. My first career was in communications, working for a range of organizations, and one of my first roles where I cut my teeth was working for a utility company, doing communications for them, helping to engage stakeholders across the service area. And that was a lot of fun, and that's really where I came to learn so much about energy and its central role for everyone in living a healthy and successful life and supporting communities and thriving as well. My second career, I became a consultant working in transportation, land use, and the environment. And I worked on new community projects, not only those that built buildings and homes, but also thinking about stormwater, sewer, some of the infrastructure needs that are necessary, again, for communities and for people to be successful themselves and for their families. And then in the interim, I became a professor. And so I learned to work very closely with classes that I taught and the individuals who were in those classes, and thinking about what future are they trying to get to and how can I support them in doing that. And so that led to my third career, which is what I'm doing these days. So in addition to my work at Waterford, and I'll tell you a little bit about what we do, I'm the director of training and development for leaders in energy. My work at Waterford involves working closely with individuals who want to make that transition into our field, or who are in our field and want to move to their next great opportunity. So I help people to design their own career plan and help them to implement that plan. And that might involve learning some new skills, or developing some other strategies that help them to land that next role. I also work with people who are in organizations that want to do that for their teams. So they want a custom-made solution that responds to the market dynamics, as well as the organizational needs with that sustainability lens.
Yep.
In Leaders in Energy, I work closely with our leadership team of about 25 people, helping to manage the organization with this particular focus on the leadership and development portfolio. And so we have a couple of workshops we've developed. We've had almost 200 people take them to date. And we have one coming up that helps people put together that career plan. And then we have a 2.0 version of that. And then we have a small group where we let people further implement that plan, provide them with the supports that they need. And I'll put some information in the chat window about that. So it's really a focus on how do we make that big green shift individually and organizationally, and with a special emphasis on lifelong learning. I think that's something that I've heard Mafo and Mariana speak about this morning, this afternoon, this evening. And I think that's a lens that we all need to bring. Our industry is constantly changing, which is exciting. There are a lot of really wonderful things happening in Africa, with building out the grid and renewables, so many exciting trends. And so how can we position ourselves not only to do something that's good for us, but for our families and for our communities and for the planet? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Oh, I thought I was on mute the entire time. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Beth Hoffenbaker. Thank you. You mentioned something quite profound there. How do we, advance our skills for our communities and for the betterment of the world? Because that's what it is. If we can't take care of our spaces and of our earth, then it's going to be very difficult for us to then grow and evolve to greater spaces as humanity. So thank you very much for that. Okay, I think that's been everybody that's provided the opening statement. So we do have a couple of questions that maybe we can start with. I think Beth, just on that note, how can we incentivize communities to be more energy efficient? How can we incentivize communities to be energy efficient and also to be more involved in making sure that for example, things like climate change. We have climate change because some of the challenges that we have of waste management. So how can we then when it comes to being energy efficient?
What a great question, Tebang. I think that is at the core of all the work that we do. It's what's around individual change and collective change. And this is where my dissertation was a study of public engagement in several countries around the world, including South Africa. And so one of the big insights from that is the importance of engaging people and understanding what their goals and their needs and their concerns are. And so one of the things I also think back to is something, there's a great report by Rhodes University that was supported by the United Nations. I learned about it at an OECD Green Skills event I went to a couple of years ago, and it talked about what we need in this industry is not only the technical skills, right? How are you going to be solar
Yeah.
PV technician, whatever it might be, but we need relational skills and we need transformational skills. And that means we need to be able to engage with people who are like us and not like us and find out what our shared vision is. Of course, celebrating our shared humanity and understand and be able to craft solutions that are win-win all the way around. And it sounds like a really easy thing to say, and it can be really hard, as we know. So it means stepping outside our comfort zone sometimes, but being willing to engage people, individuals and that group in a dialogue about what's important to them and how do we create something that they really see themselves as part of and make them part of it. And that's a lot easier said than done.
Okay. Thank you for those inputs. And 100%, you are right. A lot easier said than done, because so easy for us to engage. But if we don't have people at a similar level, if we don't conscientize our communities about the importance of, energy leadership at a micro level, then it's going to be very difficult for them to be part of the solution. So thank you very much for that. Dr. Marina, you emphasized quite a bit on water management, the need to have water, or rather there's a concomitant relationship between managing water and also producing energy. So Dr. Marina, if you can take us through that, just to elaborate a bit on how does water how does water aid in the production of energy? But most importantly, I have an issue around in Africa alone, we are privatizing our water supply. What are the consequences of such actions? Privatizing our water supply, so it means we don't have regular control over it. So Dr. Mariana, if you can just elaborate on the point that you mentioned earlier on, as an extension to the statement that I've just made around our water supply. Okay, Dr. Mariana, I think
There
your
you go.
microphone is off.
I
There
think
we
it's
go.
on
Thank you.
now. Thank you.
Yeah,
I've
great.
got a little thingy like this, and I sometimes by accident press it to mute. So
Okay, no
my
problem.
apologies. What
No
I
problem.
said is you are asking me a very difficult but a very important question. With regard to the link between water management and energy management. And I think, Mpo, you can also then add to what my thoughts are, that if we really think closely about the production of energy, it is something that is reliant on water. If we do, I mean, I'm not talking solar energy, although in the production of the solar panels there might be water in the processes. That's not my part and my forte. But if we think about electricity, if we think about our regular utilities, where we obtain our electricity from, there's water involved. So when we get to water scarcity, it is quite frightening if you think about what can happen if we do not have water. Um, if we think about when was it last year, 2 years ago, when it was the drought started in the Cape.
Yeah.
Things just changed dramatically. The way individuals operated and the way companies had to operate. Then and looking at water availability versus, you ask a question about the privatizing of the utilities. It's I don't have all the answers there. I
Sure.
don't have any answers there, to be to be absolutely honest.
Sure.
But it is the way that we are going. We have to make sure that the companies that are going to manage our water in the country also have the skills and knowledge. And I think that brings us back to where we started off with the skills and knowledge and development of people with regard to all the different resources. So I'm pretty sure I'm not answering your question, but I think that's a different. We can talk the whole day about water management as a resource, but there's a definite link. That's my last on this one. There's a
Yeah,
definite link between water. We cannot manage energy without taking water into account.
100%. Thank you very
That's
much.
and maybe just our Tabang, maybe I just want to add to what Beth has said as well about the other skills that people need. And I'm so glad you mentioned that, Beth, because the softer skills we sometimes forget. We work with engineers, work with
Yes.
technicians, we work with operators, and it's so technical that we sometimes forget that other skills that you mentioned.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Mariana. I think let's go to Mpho. Mpho, maybe you can extend on what Dr. Mariana has then said. And as you extend, perhaps you can also assist us with what are the opportunities that EWCETA has availed for young people and particularly for women? Because what I find is we don't have, or rather, young people don't have an appetite to participate in the energy sector. I don't know if it's maybe they might not have the information, and it's not an issue of access in some instance. It's just an issue of appetite. What can get them more involved? So, what is EWCETA doing in that regard to ensure that there are opportunities for SMMEs in the energy sector, particularly where women and young people are concerned? Because I think we are a country with a lot of legislation, with a lot of policies which could be exclusive. And by them being exclusive, it kind of hounds on the participation of a lot of businesses. And the exclusivity comes with the bureaucracy and the red tape that is involved. We've just got too many papers that need to be signed. But at the core of it, one is, what are the opportunities? And two, what is EWCETA doing to appetize or to draw young people in to participate? And then after, we'll go to Tanya van Sale. Mpho, over to
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.
Sure.
Just to touch on the energy and the water relationship, very
Yeah.
intimate relationship. And I know we talk about the energy water nexus, and we've been
Yes.
bringing in food, and now we're bringing in chemicals within the
Yeah.
within the nexus. And the reality is that moving from a high water intensive production of energy, which is from basically in most of our plants in the fossil fuel space, we use water to cool down. I used to drive around, is it Mpumalanga? And you see that clean fog, and you realize that's actually we're blowing water, the water that we don't have. The communities around don't have water, and water is escaping into the environment. And it's critical that
100%.
we are developing the skill right now to say, how do we ensure that we are able to generate electricity without wasting a very critical resource that is scarce, which is water. And the shift into the renewables is moving along that line to say, yes, we are going to require water for production of solar panels and cleaning them, but it's not water intensive. We're not wasting a lot of water. And from there also, it's even, how do we even use in the production of the solar, I'm going to use production of solar panel or wind turbines or hydrogen cell fuel. How do we ensure that from that process, we're not water, the byproduct that's coming from those processes, we're recycling it into usable resource? And that requires skills. And those can only come from a well-capacitated workforce. It's only where someone is working with that and realizes this is a loss of water, are they able to come up with ideas of how to save water. Beth talked to, you asked Beth about how do we ensure that communities are aware, and that it starts from there. Advocacy, how do we change mindsets of communities and even of workers? Because if workers who are using water every day aren't aware that there's a wastage, there's no way they're going to come up with ideas on saving water. And that's why we require continuous professional development. One EWC is looking at how do we start at artisan level, even have introduced continuous training. With the I'm a CEA. With the CEAs, you are required to have CPD points. Engineers are required to have CPD points. But when you look at artisans, it's once an artisan and always an artisan. There's no required training, and that's where we find ourselves today, that we are now transitioning into the new era, but we have not been capacitating artisans. And they find themselves not able to function within the new technologies because they were trained to do plumbing in a certain way. They still want to come dig out your pipes to find where it's leaking because you have not been training them. And that's been our call as EWC to employers to say, ensure that we are training our employees. Let's continue to introduce. Right now, a number of companies are closing down, and you find that employees have never gone through any training and cannot go into another sector to look for a job because they only know how to do what they've been doing in that job for a long time. So we're saying let's increase the training. EWC has looked at more skills programs rather than long-term learnerships and long-term training, and say, how do we bring in skills programs that are short, where you can capacitate someone in a certain just to attain a certain skill. I think having a multi-skilled workforce even increases high productivity in the workplace, and also for our country ensures that you are marketable when you leave that employment. Let me move to the question you've asked: what are the opportunities that are available at EWC, and what are we doing to ensure that we are including women and young people? Fortunately, we signed an agreement, a service level agreement with the minister, and one of the agreement which is aligned to the NDP is to ensure that our young people are having access to training so that they can access employment. So 90% of our beneficiaries are young people. And we've been really critical on ourselves in the last 2 years to say it's not only about putting young people in training, because you can imagine a young person who's coming from communities where there's poverty, there's no means for the family. They get a bursary with EWCTA, or they go through a training program, but that training program is not relevant. That when I leave with a certificate, I cannot get employment because I've been trained in a relevant course that's sitting in a TVET college. So we've been looking at how do we ensure that our structure is not actually killing our young people and demoralizing our young people. So we are looking into saying, I know it takes time. QCTO might be in the room. It takes time to develop a qualification. It takes time just to register a skills program, but we're looking at how do we start designing those short-term courses to capacitate our young people. Women, annually we collect information from industry, and it still reflects that we've got less women in the energy and the water sector, but the leadership position. We've intentionally now put that as one of our targets, because I think we often collect this information, we know about it, and you don't put programs that are specific for women. We currently have advertised out a women leadership program partnered with Wits University, where we are looking for senior managers in the energy sector who are looking to be developed to become executives in the energy and the water sector. And this is specifically just for women for those two sectors. So we are looking at how, I don't want to say balancing, but giving women, or capacitating women so that they have equal opportunities as the men have to apply for such jobs and are well capacitated. So that's where we're looking, and initiatives out there that are supporting women. EWC is open to partner with you so that together we bring up these numbers and get women involved. I'm glad to see women only in the session.
Careful them, Paul. They think you're being biased on that one. Hey, we don't want the men logging off and rioting.
Support.
Okay, Tanya. I think the first question that I have to you is the programs that you are offering, the National Cleaner Production Center is offering. What kind of practicals are being offered? Because obviously it's a course, but what are the practical sort of, I don't want to call them outreach programs, I don't want to call them internships, but are people linked to sort of job opportunities after they've undergone the courses? And also, whilst they are performing the courses, what are the practical things that they do to link the theory with the praxis? So I hope my question is clear to you. And just on that note, Tanya, perhaps this is for all of you to answer. How do we reach rural areas for training and development? Maybe Tanya, you can answer that, and then we will move on to everybody else answering a similar question. But I think the first question, Tanya, is to then find out the National Cleaner Production Center, what practicals or practical initiatives accompany the courses that NCP offers, and then secondly, how do we reach rural areas for training and development? Over to you, Ms. Van Zyl.
Thank you, Tabang.
Yep.
So on your first question about the practical part of the NCPC training, so I think I mentioned that we have two types of training. The first one being an end user type of training, which spans over 2 days. And then we have what we call expert courses. Okay.
Right.
And during these expert courses, they run for anything from 9 to 12 months. They kick off with classroom-based training, which is then theory. But then that is usually also based at what we call a host site. So we'll go to industry, we'll find a company with that specific system. For instance, let's take the steam system as an example. We'll go there and we'll, during those first 5 days of doing the steam training, we will take them through that steam system at the host company. Let's call it SAPI, for instance, and we'll show them how to do that. Once they've done those 5 days worth of training, they have to get their own plant, what we call a candidate plant. So this is now a different plant where they do these assessments themselves. And we have monthly interventions and mentoring sessions with our candidates that help them through that process. Once they've done it on the host site, they do it themselves on this candidate site. And we help them and mentor them through this process up until the point where they have done their own assessment at their candidate site as well. And all of this leads up to a final report on the practical work that they have done, and then a test as well. So yes, that's our expert courses are really the practical part of what we teach. And yeah, I wouldn't say that our end user courses are not practical. We usually include at least a few elements of tools that you can use in industry, how you can quickly spot low-hanging fruit in industry, so that if you've done the end user course, you at least have a good idea of where your opportunities are and where you should focus. And then once you come for the expert course, you can do the real practical stuff as well. What was that next question again?
So yeah, so I think the next question, everybody would answer that, and maybe you can just add your conclusive remarks as you answer it. The question was, how do we reach rural areas for training and development? Because I think there is such a fallacy that energy efficiency and energy development is suited for urban areas. And so we have the whole smart city going on, et cetera, but we don't actually need to move to urban areas. I think energy efficiency and energy programs are needed in the rural areas because there's more, not just a demand, but there's more space and capacity to do so. So how do we reach rural areas for training and development?
Okay, so I have a very nice example of the latest course we developed was in biogas.
Okay.
And by the very nature of this course, it is aimed at the rural setting where you perhaps have a farm with cattle and some waste from that,
Yep.
and how you can develop your own biogas facility using that. So I think we should use technology, right? Technology has to take us to the rural areas where
Right.
we can uplift and upskill people to do some of these things for themselves. And if you look at the energy landscape of today, we are set to have a more decentralized energy system. This is imperative. We need to do that. And therefore, these kinds of technologies will become more and more important. If you think about solar PV being something that is really implemented in the Northern Cape and
Yeah.
solar CSP, all of those kinds of technologies are really suited to rural areas. So we can most certainly involve them in renewables and alternatives. I think the real problem that we might have is education in efficiency. And that we should really start from even in school days. I'm not even saying train somebody up to be an engineer and then teach them on a short course how to be energy efficient. What I'm saying is we need to look at our school curriculum and we need to insert things there that will give them this appetite for energy and water. And chemicals. And I mean, we have so much of information that we can share. And it really needs to get to school kids as well. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much, Tanya. That was Tanya van Sale. Ladies and gentlemen, can we then have Beth Offenbaker? If you can, can conclude for us and maybe also just add an insight on how we can reach rural areas for training and development. Over to you, Beth. Sure.
Thank you. I really appreciate this thoughtful discussion. I think it touches on so much of our field and the challenges and the opportunities that we have before us. I think, Mifo talked about the SDGs earlier, and if we go back to that as a roadmap going forward, I mean, it really is the universe of the kinds of problems that and opportunities that are before us. And so I really feel strongly that the role of women in communities, as we know from research, that has everything to do with the success of the family, the success of the community. And when we make those investments in women forward on a rural level, as well as everywhere else, that opens doors for the next generation. And I think on a rural level as well, I'm a big believer in problem-based learning, right? And this goes to some of the comments I made earlier. What's the problem that we see? And then how can we engage people in thinking about how it could be different? And even some of the small things that they can do that connect with addressing that problem. It can be something like cook stoves, right? We've seen a lot of movement, and that we know the contributions that unfortunately cook stoves make to air quality and community health. Those are things that we can really help unlock. There are a lot of great resources around those types of things that are going on. And then the technology side of it. I know that is often a challenge in some communities, right? The access to the grid to be able to, do all these things on a little device. But how can we think about the access points, the problem as that community sees it, and then engage people, and then partnering, right? We've heard a lot of great examples in the panel today about ways that, skills building can be brought there. A community organization or an employer sees a need there, or the community comes to a partner and says, we'd like to do this. So there's that awareness, and then there is the desire to collectively come together to make things better.
Yeah.
So I'd say it's a combination of all those different factors.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much. Dr. Mariana, can you perhaps provide your conclusive remarks and
Yes,
also
thank you.
share on how we can reach rural communities for training and development? And also, if you can maybe touch on our communities, how can we teach our communities to manage waste better? You know, I mean, waste has become quite
Yeah,
expensive now, yeah, because waste management is
it
an
is.
economy on its own. You know, it's an economy on its own. So how can we not just dump that piece of paper or that bottle, but how do we then make sure that even in our training and development, we help them see the value of waste? Over to you, Doc.
Thank you, Tabang. I want to touch or link to what Tanya said as well with regard to schools. And I think
Yeah.
that is really the starting point where we have to get schools more involved and school curriculum maybe including the resource management that kids
Yeah.
understand from very from a young age how to work with resources, and they can change the world. Children can change the world, definitely.
True.
That links to what you now just asked with regard to the waste management, is to start at a young age to teach children what they can let go to the landfill and what can be recycled. There are so much money lying on landfills if you really think about it, and I think
So
you
true.
mentioned that. So it is really spreading the word with regard to waste management and what the benefits are. And I think it was this morning when we had that gentleman, was it Gift, who spoke about the technologies and the waste management in rural areas as well, and that's the way to go. With regard to rural areas, and I'm going to link it with skills development for women and youth, but for women in
Yeah.
specifically as well, is that there are so many opportunities which a woman can grab. We've recently been involved, or we are still involved with training for the UN Women Organization, and that is specifically with regard to resource efficiency, with carbon management, waste management, and the uptake was very good. But it is a program that can be rolled out we started with a pilot project in Gauteng, but it can be rolled out to the other provinces and to rural areas.
Yeah.
Then also, I know UNIDO has programs for the development of women and youth, and I think we must just make sure, as the panel, as us being involved in training, is to spread that word and get the message out to our ladies in the rural areas, for them to be able to partake in programs like this. There are opportunities. However, we can always do better. We can always
Sure.
do better and have more programs. And this is also where our CETAs and government can come in to make funding and donations available for these ladies to be able to attend. And I see you are smiling, because that usually our rural areas are poor areas. They don't have the funds to come to Pretoria or to Gauteng or to the major cities for a week-long training. We have to help them. I don't have the answer exactly how, but I think we all have to work towards that. And that's my last 5 cents worth.
Thank you very much, Dr. Marianne. It certainly is not worth 5 cents. I think it's worth more than that. So thank you very much for those contributions. I think we'll have Mpho now. Lastly, Mpho, you are our final closing remark when it comes to how do we then reach rural areas for training and development, and perhaps you can add insights on your experience with taking EWCETA to rural communities. What was it like? And they certainly may not have access, but I truly believe that our rural areas have such a rich and such a wealth that is unbeknown to us, because there's arable land, there's space. When you speak to a rural woman or rural man about harvesting a grape seed to produce wine, you get more information than what you'd get in a classroom, because they understand the harvest times and they understand the ground, they speak to the soil, they get what is needed where. So just on that note, Mpho, maybe you can close for us in that regard.
Thank you, Tabang. Our rural communities have the sun, they have wind, and they have solid waste. Solid waste might be whether from the toilets, from the pit latrines, and right there you've got energy. And when we get into our communities, mostly in the rural area, they're not. The issue is not clean energy; it's access to energy. They don't have it, and it's how do we now take the skill to make sure that the young people who are growing in those areas and the women and the men in those areas realize that they're sitting with resources, and they'll never be able to use those resources if we have not capacitated.
Right.
When you look at what the government has done, we've got TVET colleges, and I'm going to keep punting on TVET colleges because TVET colleges are seen as the most unsexiest way of getting post-matric education. When your child wants to go to a TVET, a mother will fight that this child goes to university. But the government has provided TVET colleges and community colleges now to ensure that we're taking education to the people. And it's going to be impossible to bus everyone else into Johannesburg to come train and send them back into their communities. But how do we, even using technology, take education to the people? We can't now talk about there's no electricity because there's the sun in those different communities. Take education there, but beyond that, we have capacitated a number of people in the rural communities. In those same rural communities, there aren't jobs. So now how do we go beyond training people to occupy jobs, but for them now to create jobs? In the session in the morning, we were talking about entrepreneurship. And one might say, in the rural areas, there aren't opportunities. You've got a market that is looking for power. So if a young person is capacitated and is able to generate power in the communities, that is just going to charge cell phones, or it's going to provide power for cooking. It saves a mother time in the morning to go collect wood, or a young girl to collect wood and collect water before they go to school. But so there is, someone talked about problems here. Is identifying those problems and say, what skills do I now bring into those communities? The unfortunate thing is that in South Africa, it's so difficult. We have to start planning from a skills perspective and from a SETA perspective. Plan according to district, plan provincially, and then start even going planning according to district. Because we have this blanket planning, and we say we're all moving into solar, and we develop one qualification that we expect the entire country to apply to their different needs. So it goes deeper into how do we even plan to the level of different communities and capacitate those colleges in those areas to respond to such, and entrepreneurship in such areas are also responding to the needs of such communities. So it really requires all of us to really come together and say, what is needed in these communities? And if we're going to invest in skills development, how are we going to ensure that we get some returns where people will have access to energy and we are seeing inclusive participation in economic growth?
Geez, on that note, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. I don't want to add to what all of you have contributed and said. I think that's a very, very important statement you've just relayed, just about district planning, to say we might be a country struggling with, we have common challenges, but per region we are different. When you go to Limpopo and you go to Venda, I mean, the produce is there, you know, the land there, we've got banana trees and avocado trees. We don't have space in Gauteng because we've got cements and paving and so forth, you know. So you're quite right about district planning. It's very critical. Ladies, on that note, I really wish to thank all of you for participating in this rigorous discussion. I really hope and pray it doesn't end here. And in our own spaces and fields, hopefully we can all meet one day and really come together, because after all, leadership is about solving problems. You know, they say that the day soldiers stop bringing you their problems is the day you have stopped leading them. So it's very important for us to understand our roles in our constituencies and the industries we are in. So thank you very much for taking the time to share your presentations, your insights, and your thoughts as experts in energy, in the energy sector. So thank you very much for joining us. We hope that you'll be tuned in tomorrow and we can facilitate further discussions. Thank you very much, ladies.